talking today to James Lamper. James is a UK eating and behaviour therapist. Hi James, how are you?
Hello Joanne, I'm very well, thank you.
Great. James, today we're talking about obesity. What is the difference between obesity and just being overweight?
Well, obesity and overweight, we're looking at the same idea, which is someone holding on to excess weight. And generally when we're looking at, for health purposes, we're looking at that excess weight being body fat that's being held. Using a system called the body mass index, or the BMI, it's a way of classifying basically how overweight somebody is. So generally if somebody is about 10% overweight for their natural healthy BMI, then we would call them overweight. So generally there's a score. If someone is between 25, has a BMI between 25 to 30, they'll be classified as overweight. Anything above a BMI of 30, then somebody will be described as obese.
What are the main causes of obesity?
Well, I suppose the easy way to answer that is we tend to be eating too much food, so our calorie intake is too high, and at the same time our energy expenditure or our exercise is too low. So the simple question or the simple answer would be calories in versus calories out. And at the end of the day, there's a deficit of we're taking in too many calories. But it becomes a little bit more complex when we think about what type of calories we're taking in. So for example, if someone is taking in lots and lots of excess sugar or carbohydrate, that can actually cause chemicals in our body like insulin to increase and our blood sugar levels to rise and fall rapidly, which means that has a huge effect on the amount of fat that we actually store, because excess carbohydrate is stored as fat. And not many people know that. So if we have, bread and we go out for a meal, we're having some wine and then we have a big bowl of pasta and then a dessert, the total amount of carbohydrate that's being eaten at that time actually will get transferred and stored as fat because we're taking in too much of it. And too much insulin in the body is basically keeping the fat stuck in our fat cells. So it's not just how much we eat, but it's also the balance of the food that we eat.
Why is obesity a growing problem?
Well, I think if we look back to maybe our parents' generation and the generation before, we were much more active. We would move around and we would go around to people's houses to see them. We would cycle, we would walk. And in today's society, I suppose we've got a bit lazy. And I think with the amount of technology, we sit in front of computers like you and I are today. We have games consoles, we have the iPad. We tend to be sitting down a lot of the time using technology, and it takes us away from moving around. And secondly, I think it's also the change in the way that food is being manufactured. So we have something like the high fructose corn syrup, which is very prevalent in a lot of our foods. And the research shows again and again how much that increases the incidence of obesity.
How would you specifically work with a person who you were treating for obesity?
Okay, so there needs to be some medical and health and lifestyle assessment. So depending on the degree of the obesity, I think it's important that we get a medical check. So we have a doctor here at the practice, the Weight Matters practice here in London, and there would be a medical check to assess any sort of health risk, or we call comorbidities. So things like high blood pressure or excessive abdominal fat that's being held, high cholesterol levels, etc. And then looking at the lifestyle, so understanding maybe what they're eating and how frequently, how much exercise they're doing, and we'd use food diaries as an assessment tool, but also understanding their emotional response to food. So really understanding if there are triggers in someone's life and they're using food as a way to soothe or to help them comfort, the stresses of day-to-day life. And understanding that big picture allows me, in a way, as a therapist, but also as a project manager, to understand what their goals are. And I would work overseeing someone's exercise, someone's nutrition, and someone's psychological, mental pathway to help them lose weight.
Just talking about the food diary, why do you feel that the food diary or a food journal is such a good tool in helping somebody lose weight? And how do you use the diary? Is it just a matter of writing down, I ate chips today, I ate a potato? How does it work?
Okay, so you can imagine that when we're eating and when we're exercising and then we're feeling bad about our body shape and size, it's all up here in our head. And having a food journal, it gives us a sense of objectivity. It allows us to look in an overview of maybe what we're eating, the time that we're eating, the amount of activity that we're doing, how we're sleeping, understand maybe our thoughts and feelings that might be triggering the way that we're eating during the day. And my job is to work with someone, and I move alongside them, working very collaboratively, almost in a coaching style, and I'm asking questions of inquiry. I want to understand, what makes them choose to do this and how they feel afterwards. Maybe trying to work with them to find solutions of change. What would happen if we were to have a social experiment and you did something else in this particular situation? And in a way, I am teaching them, and hopefully they're going to draw on the way that I am supporting them, and it becomes almost an internal dialogue that they can now then do this for themselves. They can assess what they're doing and then enable themselves to make small changes week by week, so that long after they've finished working with me, they've internalized this, positive coaching aspect.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
My pleasure.